all of you. Welcome to everyone who's joined us for the next 369. It's always so wonderful to see familiar faces, but to also have new faces on the call. If this is your first time, welcome. And if you are continuing to come back, that means we must be bringing you some good topics and you must be learning something, because I know it's getting harder and harder to commit to one more Zoom call in the midst of all the meetings and things that we thought we would be done with. Just quickly to remind people, the 369 is always happening on the third Wednesday at 3 o'clock, and it's for 69 minutes. So, you know, if we go past that 4 o'clock time, that's expected, because we try to do everything with this magic number 369. And 369 is called the wonder number by Nikola Tesla. And it is going to take a lot of wonderful people and a lot of wonderful strategies to change the literacy lives of children. So we're using everything in our power, including the magic of numbers. And Nikola Tesla was a pretty brilliant inventor and full of electricity. So why not try to name ourselves after him and be inspired by this incredible number. Today, we always like to begin our time together with a land acknowledgement. And for many of us, we are gathered today on Treaty 7, which is where Calgary is located, but some of you may be coming from somewhere else. And please take a moment to remember the sacredness of the land that you are on, wherever you may be coming from. We're going to do something a little bit different in our land acknowledgement, but maybe not so different for those of us in the literacy world. At Calgary Reads, we have a bundle of books that we share with our partners who serve Indigenous families, and it's called the Comfort Collection. And the Comfort Collection are bundles of books that support different topics, and the Indigenous bundle is called the Wild Rose Bundle, and it is made up of a beautiful set of books and resources for families to remind them that the comfort that can come when we cuddle up and share books together and spend time talking about big, hard, complex, or just joyful things. So we decided today that our land acknowledgement would recognize an incredible author who has won the Governor General's Literary Award for his book called When We Were Alone. And we're going to hear from his words. He's located in Winnipeg. He's going to read this story to us as our land acknowledgement for today. Natalie?
Okay, I'm going to press play. Just let me know if you don't hear the sound for any reason.
My name is Dave Robertson, and this is When We Were Alone. I wrote it, and Julie Flett illustrated it, and I'm going to read it to you. Today, I help my kukum in her flower garden. She always wears colorful clothes. It's like she dresses in rainbows. When she bent down to prune some of the flowers, I couldn't even see her because she blended in with them. She was like a chameleon. Newcomb, why do you wear so many colors? I asked. Newcomb said, well, Nusissum, when I was your age, at home in my community, my friends and I wore many different colors. But at the school I went to, far away from home, they gave us different clothes to wear. All the children were dressed the same, and our clothes weren't colorful at all. We all mixed together like storm clouds. Why do you have to dress like that? I asked. They didn't like that we wore such beautiful colors, Newcomb said. They wanted us to look like everybody else. But sometimes in the fall, when we were alone and the leaves had turned to their warm autumn hues, we would roll around on the ground, we would pile the leaves over the clothes they had given us, and we would be colorful again. And this made us happy. Now, Newcomb said, I always wear the most beautiful colors. After I'd helped with the flowers, we went over to the back gate. There were vines covering the gate, and they reached all the way to the ground. When my Kukum turned to fix the latch, I saw that her braid hung almost as low as the vines. It was like she had a tail. Nukum, why do you wear your hair so long? I asked. Nukum said, well, Nusissum, when I was your age at home in my community, my friends and I grew our hair long, just like our people have always done. It made us feel strong and proud. But at the school I went to far away from home, they cut off all our hair. Our strands of hair mixed together on the ground like blades of dead grass. Why did you have to wear your hair like that? I asked. They didn't like that we were proud, Nukum said. They wanted us to be like everybody else. But sometimes in the spring, when we were alone and the grass had grown so long and thick in the field, we would pick the blades from the ground. We would braid them into the short hair they had given us, and we would have long hair again. And this made us happy. Now, Nukum said, I always wear my hair very long. After my Kukum had fixed the latch, I followed her to the birdhouse. There was a bird flying through the air like a jingle-dressed dancer. She fed the bird and whispered, Napinasis, Michaso, Tamasikatian, Tamaskaisian, and that means, here, little bird, eat so you will get big and strong. And her words sounded just like a poem. Nukum, why do you speak in Cree? I asked. Nukum said, well, Nusissum. When I was your age at home in my community, my friends and I always spoke our language. But at the school I went to far away from home, they wouldn't let us speak our words. All the children used their strange words, and we didn't understand them at all. Our voices blended together like a flock of crows. Why'd you have to talk in their language? I asked. They didn't like that we spoke our language, Nukum said. They wanted us to talk like everybody else. But sometimes in the summer, when we were alone and our teachers weren't anywhere around the place we were, we would whisper to each other in Cree. We would say all the words we weren't allowed to say so that we wouldn't forget them, and this made us happy. Now, Nukum said, I always speak my language. After our gardening work was done, I sat with my Kukum in the backyard. Her brother came over and sat with us. He comes over all the time. We drank tea and ate bannock. The tea was hot and sweet, and the bannock was moist and warm and melted in my mouth. My Kukum and my uncle talked and laughed like children. Nukum, why do you and Nokomis always spend time together? I asked. Nukum said, well, Nusissum, when we were your age at home in our community, being with family was the most important thing. We played with each other, did chores together, and shared everything. But at the school I went to far away from home, they wouldn't let us be together. My brother and I were separated like day and night. Why were you and Nokomis separated? I asked. They didn't like when we were with family, Nukum said, because when we were together, we thought too much of home. But sometimes in the winter, when we were alone and we were sure that nobody could see us, we would find each other. We would take off our mitts, and in the crisp, cold air, we would hold hands so we could be with each other. And this made us happy. Now, Nukum said as she reached over and held my uncle's hand in mine, I am always with my family. The end.
I think this beautiful story reminds us of the residential school and everything that was taken away from the children who were there. And today we have Nina here talking to us, and Nina is one of those people who really understands the importance of language and the need for us to ensure that children have those words as early as they possibly can. Nina is a speech language pathologist, and she lives and works and is in Ontario. And we're very fortunate to be able to work with Nina and the team at the Canadian Children's Literacy Foundation, which is also committed to ensuring that children have the language they need, the literacy supports, those reading relationships that can lead to a very rich life. So it's my pleasure to turn things over to Nina, and thank you so much for agreeing to be with us today. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Stacy, for that wonderful introduction. My colleague Maite is on with us today, and she's going to be sharing the screen. So I'll just give Maite a chance to share. Great. So before we get started, I just wanted to introduce myself. Like Stacy said, my name is Nina Shukla, and I'm the Literacy Content Manager at the Canadian Children's Literacy Foundation. As a speech-language pathologist by training, I've really had the privilege of working directly with many families and children in Ontario, in school settings, within healthcare settings, and also within early intervention programs. I also wanted to share a little bit about my family background and our journey to Canada. So my grandparents were born in India, and in their teenage years, they moved to Uganda for work opportunities in East Africa. And that's where both my parents were born and lived for many years. And in their teenage years, which was in the 1970s, there was quite a bit of political challenges for people of South Asian background who lived in East Africa. And so at that point, they moved to Canada as refugees and eventually met in Toronto. And that's where my brother and I were both born. And I currently work and live with my husband and my 2 children. And so, please move to the next slide. Thank you. So, my grandparents left their land in India. My parents left the only land they knew in Uganda, and now I call Toronto my home. And in that spirit of respect and reciprocity, I acknowledge that I live and tell stories on the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, which is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis communities. I also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13, and may our relationship with the land teach us to live and work in good relationship with one another. Oh, sorry, Maite, I think thank you. Okay, so I'm very honored to be here today to speak on behalf of the Canadian Children's Literacy Foundation. And just a little bit about the background of the organization. We promote and develop literacy initiatives. We champion literacy partners across Canada, and we really work to empower to build literacy skills in people's homes and communities. We are a relatively new organization, and we really feel fortunate to work so closely and learn from so many other literacy organizations like Calgary Reads throughout the country. And as Stacey mentioned, we have a very large ambition. Our ambition is to ensure that all children in Canada have the literacy skills needed to achieve their full potential. So today we're going to talk a little bit about the programs at CCLF and also spend some time reflecting on the families that we all work with. And my goal is really for everyone to learn about our programs and most importantly, get a good sense of what resources are available for you to use and access in your communities. So as we all know, reading early and often at home unlocks opportunity and achievement. So young children ages 0 to 5 whose parents often engage in early literacy activities like reading books, telling stories, singing songs, even talking about what they're doing. These are the kids that generally outperform their peers as readers in school. However, only about 51% of parents engage in early literacy activities with their little ones frequently. And so we really want to address this gap with the goal of enabling families to have a huge positive impact on their child's reading journey. So in terms of the programs at CCLF, we really try to work to ensure families with young babies and children can ensure and access literacy resources and information where they are, such as their healthcare provider's office or even at their local food bank. We also work to train professionals who are willing to learn more about how to share the importance of early literacy with the families that they work with. And finally, we know that there's so many wonderful literacy resources from a variety of sectors, and we really believe in utilizing existing ones and sharing our resources with others so this really important message can get shared more broadly across our country. So before I get into the programs at CCLF, I was hoping to share a video. It's a very short video that really hones in on why and how professionals working with families 0 to 5 can play a key role in sharing this information about why starting early literacy activities right from birth is so important. Just give us one moment and we'll get the video started.
In Canada, 1 in 4 children starting school is not set up for success. But it doesn't have to be this way, and you can play a key role by letting families know what you know. Young children who live in language-rich environments in their first years of life are more likely to arrive at school ready to learn and thrive. Children who are lovingly surrounded by words when they are very little tend to do better in school from the beginning. For others, it can be hard to catch up. Part of this may be linked to how their brain architecture developed when they were very small. The first 12 months of a child's life is a sensitive period for brain development. This is when the brain rapidly develops the neural pathways that are the foundation for vision, hearing, language, and memory. By the time a child heads to school, the pathways that are used over and over are strengthened and become permanent. Pathways that aren't used much weaken or fade away. Professionals who work with young families have an opportunity to support building strong baby brains right from birth. Babies may not be able to talk, but they are always watching, listening, and learning. This will soon fuel an explosion of language. Encourage young families to talk, sing, read, cuddle, play silly games, laugh. It can be lots of fun. What's more, the evidence is in. It doesn't matter what language families speak to their little ones. What matters is that they are lovingly surrounded by words. Remember, these special moments can't be replaced by screens and devices. Building a baby's brain by using a nurturing blanket of words opens doors. It helps children do better in school, builds understanding, empathy, critical thinking, and the capacity for lifelong learning. Help spread the word, build healthy brains, change lives. Visit childrensliteracy.ca for resources and information.
Great. Thanks, Maite. So I hope you found our light bulbs just as cute as we do. And really the take-home message there is starting as early as possible is the message that we want to get across to parents. So now I wanted to get into talk a little bit more about our Early Word Premier Mo program, which is essentially a health-based early literacy program. And so we work to support healthcare providers incorporate early literacy conversations and resources about early literacy with young families who they see routinely in their practice. We do know that there are so many amazing programs happening like this in pockets all around the country, including the Lire Imagine Read program at Montreal Children's Hospital. There's the Reach Out and Read program, which is very well established in the US, but there's also a handful of sites across Canada. There's the program at Ella that we heard about during Kathy Lee Porter's amazing talk last month. And of course, the Read With Me program at Calgary Reads. And these programs have all been really pivotal, in supporting our thinking for the Early Words program. And we're really just so thankful for all these partners who shared about their own learnings in this space. And our goal is not to reinvent the wheel, but really to support and collaborate with existing programs and to work to bring this important work across healthcare more broadly within Canada. So why do we partner with healthcare providers? We know that healthcare providers or healthcare settings are ideal because they're a universal place of access for children under 5 years old. And research also shows that parents really trust the advice of their healthcare provider. There's also really strong support by professional medical organizations. So for example, the Canadian Pediatric Society, who is a leader in this work, updated their position statement called Read, Speak, Sing, promoting early literacy in the healthcare setting back in January. The Royal College of Physicians and Surgeons also released a statement on early brain and biological development and early learning, and that also includes literacy. And the American Academy of Pediatrics has deemed early literacy support an essential component of primary care pediatric practice. We also partner with healthcare providers because there's this shared commitment to addressing social determinants of health. And we know that literacy is such an important social determinant of health that impacts someone's lifelong trajectory. And this is clear from partnerships that we have with the Canadian Pediatric Society, the Canadian Public Health Association of Canada, and also Children's Healthcare Canada. And most importantly, we partner with healthcare providers because we know it works. Families are actually 2.5 times more likely to read at home when they get information about early literacy from their healthcare provider. So although we know that all these things are true, healthcare-based early literacy counseling is actually still relatively uncommon in Canada. And so our goal and our vision is that early literacy support becomes as routine and expected in a checkup visit as being weighed and measured. And so, there are many healthcare providers who are interested in doing this, but they may not know the how and why of early literacy promotion. And even if they do, they may not necessarily have the tools for doing it with the greatest impact. So now I wanted to share a story from a parent that has been impacted by the Early Words program. So here is a picture of a busy mom, Kyla, and her 13-month-old Haley, with their pediatrician, who's talking to them about the importance of reading and surrounding a child with words as early as possible. And here you can see she shares her story and the excitement that her and her daughter feel when they cuddle up and read together. She also acknowledges that she didn't really start reading early with her older children, but with Haley, because of that conversation with her doctor, she will be doing that. So a little bit about our program. We launched in March 2020, which of course just coincided with the pandemic. And our first partner was Iqaluit Public Health in Nunavut. And we had a lot of success there. And so by 2021, we've expanded to 14 sites, 12 which are in Nunavut and 2 in Winnipeg. And I just wanted to note that we do recognize that there's different models of primary care across the country. So in Nunavut, the program is delivered by public health nurses at immunization visits. And in Winnipeg, it's pediatricians who provide well baby care that provides the programs to families. And so as we scale this program across Canada, sort of depending on the type of healthcare site and the geographic locations, other healthcare professionals like family physicians or nurse practitioners or occupational therapists, physiotherapists, they might be the ones actually rolling out the Early Words program. So a little bit more about the program. There's sort of 4 main elements to it. We provide customized training on early literacy counseling to the healthcare providers at those sites. We also provide culturally reflective early literacy resources for healthcare providers to share with families. We select and distribute culturally reflective, developmentally appropriate, and high quality children's books for healthcare providers to share with and provide to families to take home. And we're also working on innovative ways to connect families to additional community resources that can deepen their early literacy practices. And I just want to stress that all of these elements are really there to support that early literacy conversation that the healthcare provider has with the family. A lot of times people think, oh, it's a book gifting program, which providing a family with a book is a very key part of the program because it allows them to utilize and practice what the healthcare provider spoke to them about. But really the crux is that healthcare provider conversation. And we really want healthcare providers to understand that their impact and those conversations they have with families really, really can help change their sort of thoughts and their behaviors around early literacy. So in order to connect healthcare providers with early literacy resources, we have a provider toolkit on our website, and here you'll see a screenshot of just part of it. And this is not only available to our early word sites, but really to anybody interested in accessing it and anyone who would benefit from it. So it's essentially a centralized place where healthcare providers can access early literacy resources for themselves, for their clinics, and also for the families that they work with. And I just wanted to point out here in the yellow circle that we do have culturally reflective early literacy resources, particularly for our Nunavut clinic, or I should say Nunavut clinics. And this toolkit is constantly being updated. And as we work with different clinics with various and diverse patients, our goal is really to expand it to make it as comprehensive as possible. And I also wanted to note that some of the resources here have been created by CCLF. However, there are already so many great existing resources. So many of them on the provider toolkit are from some of our partnering organizations, such as Calgary Reads, the Canadian Pediatric Society, the Center for Family Literacy in Edmonton, and the like. So one key item on the provider toolkit is a link to the Continuing Professional Development Learning module, which was developed by the Canadian Children's Literacy Foundation and the Canadian Pediatric Society. And it's called Early Literacy Promotion, the ABCs for Busy Clinicians, which launched in 2021. And this is really available for anyone working with families with children 0 to 5 years old. So it could be pediatricians, family docs, medical learners, nurses, nurse practitioners, even midwives. We've had several midwives take the module as well. But the content also supports allied health professionals and even several non-healthcare professionals like social workers, child protection workers, and early childhood educators have found it to be really beneficial in learning how to sort of have these conversations about early literacy with the families that they work with. It is a free online self-directed program, which takes about 45 minutes to an hour to complete. And our goal was really to make this module as engaging and practical for participants. So embedded throughout the module are a variety of features and mediums like videos and interactive activities, case studies, even some downloadable resources, which might be helpful for people in their daily practice. And this is a really great step forward in recognizing literacy as an important social determinant of health. And so far, we've gotten really positive feedback on its relevance to many healthcare providers. And so all of our early words clinics do take this as part of their training and onboarding to become one of our program sites. On our provider toolkit, we also have resources for healthcare providers that are provided to our early word sites, but also available for anybody interested. So on the left there, you'll see an early literacy counseling guide, which has some key messages about language and book sharing based on a child's age. In the middle there, you'll see a clinical tool from the Canadian Pediatric Society, which really provides ideas on way to naturally segue into conversations about literacy at various types of healthcare visits. And also some practical resources on common topics that many parents will ask professionals that they work with, things like raising their children to speak more than one language, or screen time, and sort of if they are engaging in screen time, which we know is very common and it's challenging to follow the recommendations, particularly in this COVID time, what types of screen time activities are best for children. So there's lots of great resources like that also available for lots of our providers. So in terms of books and resources for families, we did speak about families receiving books. So our 14 early word sites also receive children's books for the healthcare provider to pass on to families. And I'm sure many of you have heard this quote or a variation of this quote before, but books are often referred to as windows, sliding doors, and mirrors. They really provide an opportunity for children to see, learn, and imagine the lives of others as well as themselves reflected through stories. And this is really what guides our curation of books for our clinic sites. So for example, we worked very closely with local partners and publishers in Nunavut to select culturally reflective books in Inuktitut, English, and French. And for those looking for high quality, affordable books to give away in your healthcare, early childhood, or story time programs for kids in need, we have collaborated with First Book Canada to offer books to programs at reduced prices from publishers across the country. And most of these titles are board books, which are perfect for babies and really little ones. So this book portal can be accessed directly from the website. And I should note that Scholastic also has a really well-established cost-reduced program for nonprofits to purchase books as well. So their link can also be found on our website. So another part of the Early Words program is providing clinics with materials for their actual clinic environment. And so pictured here are decals with some beautiful artwork created in consultation with our northern partners for clinics in Nunavut. So those are on your left. And also some talk, sing, and read posters for other clinic sites. And the purpose of these are really to surround families with words and prime them for that conversation that they'll be having with their healthcare provider. So early words clinics are really encouraged to put these up in their waiting rooms or their exam rooms. And with all our resources, these posters are available for download on our online provider toolkit for anyone interested in jazzing up their own clinics, community programs, or early learning environments as well. So now I wanted to share another video. This is an interview that our programs manager, Zoe Kiefer, did with two pediatricians who are currently participating in the Early Words program in Winnipeg. And I think it gives a really good flavor for the impact that this type of program has on providers and their families. Just give us one sec while we load that.
Hi, my name is Zoe Kiefer. I'm a program manager at Canadian Children's Literacy Foundation, and we run a program called Early Words. And today we are joined by two of our doctors who work on the Early Words program in Winnipeg, Manitoba, Dr. Ruth Grimes and Dr. Gina Pagura. Hello, thanks for joining us. Nice to see you both. When we told you about this opportunity, why did you folks want to join on and start doing it?
I mean, I and I think all of my colleagues are just very passionate about literacy. The rate of cognitive development and brain expansion is so rapid that certainly starting to do these things early is very important. We know that, reading, language, it's a large part of how we communicate and how kids interact with the world, and is, one of the main parts of child development.
Literacy in terms of, early book exposure, reading, speaking, singing, is actually teaching that child's language. It's teaching and helping them develop their identity, their place in the world, their place within this family, developing those attachments. How do I attach to someone? And really it was a pivotal moment, an epiphany for me several years ago when our Manitoba Pediatric Society had a town hall and we gathered pediatricians, psychologists, and psychiatrists together. At that time, our children's hospital was dealing with a mental health crisis that was actually having an effect on our acute care hospital. And we were having so many teens in crisis admitted to our acute care beds. And we were trying to brainstorm as a group of professionals how to address this. And one of our pediatric psychiatrists said, if you want to have the biggest impact on children's mental health, you need to focus and want to address literacy. And that was a very powerful moment for me. And that's, I think, where the importance of literacy, the long-term life trajectory and outcome, so that our interventions as pediatricians are going to be far-reaching. And that was a big motivator, I think, for me to want to get involved with this Early Words program.
How do families react when you give them a book or start talking to them about reading and literacy?
I can't say I've had anyone be disappointed with receiving a book. Mostly it's excitement, sometimes surprise, but we get to keep this book.
I think the beauty of the program really is also in the quality of the books. And many of the books have been books that I used and read with my children. And so what I really enjoy is when the book generates its own little story in the office.
Great. And now talking about sort of what it's like day to day running this program, how did you find the process of getting ready to start handing out books and giving counseling, like the training as a part of Early Words and the resources? How did you find that process?
The resources provided, the training video, the laminated info sheets were great and had lots of good practical tips on how to talk about things with different age groups, and just good little kind of key phrases that are nice to have on hand to talk about with families.
Being prompted and encouraged to actually go on the learning management system was also a useful, important, really informative and enriching part of the training program for me.
What's your favorite part of putting this into your practice?
I think for me, it's just inspiring a love of reading in kids. I mean, I grew up being happiest snuggled up with a book and in libraries, and it was something that I was just always exposed to. And my mom took me to the library before I could walk, probably. So being able to inspire other families to do that and really see the joy and the interaction within the family and the relationships that develop around reading, as well as all of the outcomes that we've talked about that are so important, is really just, it's just a pleasure to be involved with that and to see kids get excited about reading and hopefully make a difference for them in the future.
That love of reading has just translated. It opens up so many worlds that even if one is disadvantaged through socioeconomically or what have you, you can explore your world through reading. The world is open to you. All you need to do is open a book. And I think to build that interest can really be life-changing. And that's what I enjoy about establishing and being part of this program, is it's opening the world to young eyes.
I would say 100% get involved. It's been nothing but rewarding for myself and my colleagues to be able to continue doing this work with kids and to be able to give them something. Like I said, it's so wonderful to add that piece of it that really brings home what we're talking about. It's one thing to say it, but then to give them the tools to actually do it is another thing entirely.
The language development that then leads to the reading, that then leads to that kind of academic and social emotional achievement is so crucial. And when you teach a child to read, you're enriching that relationship between the parent and child, and you're enriching that family. That is an awesome responsibility, but a privilege that I think every physician should take wholeheartedly and take advantage of. So it has been a great program to be involved with, and I would encourage every practice to do that.
Well, I just can't think of a better way to wrap up with that. Thank you so much. It was great to see the both of you.
Lovely. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. Every time I watch that video, I just feel like we're so lucky to work with such great literacy champions, and there's just so many great literacy champions across this country, and it's so nice to be in touch and find out who everybody is and the important work that they're doing. So moving back to a little bit more about the Early Words program, really great news. We've secured funding to scale this program to about 90 clinics over 3 years across Canada. So we're super excited about that. So in August and September of 2021, we did a call out for new sites, and we invited them to complete our expression of interest form. And we had an overwhelming response from healthcare providers across the country who work routinely with families with children 0 to 5 years old, and those families who experience barriers to literacy development. So now we're moving sort of forward with our process and hoping to get new sites onboarded by, or selected by January and onboarded by March. So moving forward, I just wanted to share that we do have an e-bulletin, an Early Words e-bulletin. So it's sort of this short and sweet email that our healthcare providers get once a month with some early literacy tips and tidbits, and also just updates on our program. So for example, if we're opening up new spots or we're looking for people to provide feedback on any of our materials. So if anyone's interested in that, you can sign up directly from our website, and I think Maite just put that link in the chat as well. And finally, I just wanted to share some more photos and quotes from some of the providers and early literacy champions that we work with. So on the top left, you'll see some of our providers in Clyde River, Nunavut, with the wall decals that we provided to help them decorate their clinic and encourage conversations about early literacy. In the bottom right there, that's George, a nurse from Grise Fjord, also in Nunavut, posing with some of his books in his exam room, ready for families. So before I go on to talk a little bit more about another important program, I was hoping that we could do a little bit of reflection on the families that you work with and some of the barriers that are experienced to literacy development. So maybe I'll just give everyone a moment or so to reflect, and if you'd like to put in some thoughts in the chat, or if you feel comfortable just unmuting, that would be great. Okay. So we have newcomers to Canada. Does anybody else in the group, in the audience today, work with families who are newcomers to Canada quite frequently? I can just speak to for our expression of interest form and sites that we select for our program. Okay, so we have Joanne, who said that she does. And Joanne, do you can you speak to a little bit of your experiences with these families and sort of what their practices are around early literacy, their comfort levels around early literacy? Would you mind sharing?
Oh, sure. Hi, everybody. I have to leave my camera off because as soon as I turn it on, my internet connection starts to go wonky. It's pretty weak. But I work in Lethbridge, Alberta. A lot of the students in the schools that I work in are new to Canada, probably ages about 5 to about 12 years old. Okay. And I find the students, they are really excited about learning to read, and that their skill level goes up very, very quickly with as long as they have consistent practice. So if they practice almost every day they're reading, their reading level it goes up at a very rapid pace generally.
That's great. And do you find that a lot of the students you work with come with strong language or literacy skills in their first language?
Yes. And a lot of support generally from their parents to be in our program and improve their skills.
Amazing. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah, you bet.
Great. I know that for our expression of interest form, a lot of the barriers that come up from the healthcare providers are things like parents who may experience low literacy levels, geographic and social isolation to accessing services, and also experience with intergenerational trauma. So we find that those are some of the barriers that come up often for people applying to our clinic sites. I think somebody else just, so we have, oh, great. So I'll just read that, some great comments here. We have Suzanne, who's a family literacy outreach coordinator from Mission, BC, who facilitates the Mother Goose and infant massage. I also run the Reading Buddies program. A lot of the children in the Reading Buddies have parents who do not speak English well, okay? We have Stephanie. I don't work directly with families, rather advocate for people with low income. And I hear about parents who work long hours or multiple jobs and have limited quality time to read with their kids. That's a very interesting and perspective, Stephanie, and definitely those barriers, those time barriers often have a really, really huge impact. Kristen, yes, sometimes the challenges are maintaining and reaching families and staying connected with families who may experience barriers to access. Absolutely. Those are all really, really insightful responses. Oh, sorry. And with that being said, I think what we have definitely, come across and in speaking with the Canadian Pediatric Society and reviewing their position statement, we know that these early literacy promotion conversations and early literacy counseling tips per se are not a one size fits all. And there are a lot of cultural and familial considerations as well. And so I'm just wondering for the people who do work with families, do you notice that some families feel more comfortable engaging in specific types of early literacy activities over others? And do you notice any of the cultural pieces there that you can speak to? So one that comes up quite a bit with our partners in the North is storytelling is such a large part of their cultural practices, and so sort of encouraging that and making sure that they're aware that that's definitely also intertwined with literacy. That talking and telling stories is a key element. It's something that healthcare providers are often counseled on, because a lot of the healthcare providers who work in those communities may not have that background and that understanding. Another one I know that often comes up is that some cultures really focus on facial expressions as a form of communication, and so factoring those in and understanding that as a huge part of their communication practices should also be thought about and considered.
Nina, we have one comment in the chat about singing.
Great. So Suzanne McKay is saying singing is the key to our program success. That's wonderful to hear. Suzanne, can you tell us a little bit about your program? Okay. Well, maybe we'll come back to Suzanne at another point. But thank you so much for everybody taking the, oh, I think Suzanne's off mute.
Oh, sorry.
That's
okay.
okay.
Away and I didn't even realize it was on mute. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
In our Mother Goose program, we have a few families that are new to Canada, but even with not being able to speak 100% with each other, the singing brings us all together, no matter what. And the children love it, the parents love it, just smiling and laughing, and the understanding of just the joy that music can bring all of us. So it's something that brings us together. And the the speaking to one another comes with time, but there's that general understanding with song.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. And I know that a lot of the families or the healthcare providers who we work with say that, you know, when they tell families who might be newcomers to Canada, or families who whose parents may experience low literacy themselves, that they may not feel confident with books per se, particularly if they're not written in their language. And so just like encouraging them to look at the pictures and tell stories and create their own stories, and letting them know that, you know, you're still really teaching these really important early literacy skills with your children by teaching them how to hold a book and all of those pieces, that builds a lot of confidence for those families as well, because they didn't realize that like how much of an impact that can actually have on their children. So thanks so much for sharing, everyone, and all of those reflections. So we're going to go on to the next portion, where I'm quickly just going to talk a little bit about another really great program, and that's called, it's actually a program that was created as a response to the pandemic. So CCLF convened a coalition of over 20 multi-sector partners to deliver on an initiative called Read on Canada, or Liaison Canada. And basically during the summers of 2020 and 2021, Read on Canada took a community-based concept, so giving books to children through food banks, and then executed it on a national scale. And this was especially important given the challenges that so many families faced with COVID-related closures of schools, childcare centers, libraries, and other community programs. So the Read on Canada Coalition consisted of a group of reading advocates and food bank partners. And it was just a wonderful group of people and groups where we came together to really work with the communities and our partners across the country. So I just wanted to give a quick shout out to all of those amazing partners. And so with the support of generous publishers and funders, and working in, of course, our coalition, we were able to put about 300,000 brand new books into the hands of children through food banks since the spring of 2020. So through the Read On Coalition, we worked together as a group to collaborate on sort of the logistics of the program, but also to discuss important challenges and wins that we experienced as organizations during the pandemic. Provided orientation training on literacy ideas for food bank and staff volunteers so they could talk to families about books while handing them out. We distributed high quality children's books and activity books for families, and shared online literacy tips and resources for food banks and families. So pictured here on the far left are some food bankers with their books ready to give families at the Calgary Food Bank. And I guess in the middle there are boxes of books before they were unpacked. And you can definitely see them smiling through their masks. The Read On Coalition also created joyful activity books with literacy activities for children, which are on the right there. So the purple one is our fun activities for little ones, 0 to 5, and the white one is more for school-age children. And so we know that, again, there's many great resources amongst different literacy organizations. And so rather than reinventing the wheel, members of the coalition brought forth some of their existing literacy resources, and they were compiled and put together and distributed to share with food banks. So we were really excited about the positive feedbacks of these joint booklets. And these are also available to download on the Read On Canada section of our website for anyone interested. And to help families access online resources, each food bank was provided with the poster on the right with a QR code that linked families to the Read On Canada section of our website. And there they could find more online activities and games to promote language and literacy for all age groups. And these resources were made online so that all families across Canada could be encouraged to read on and not just the families accessing food banks. And these resources are still available on the website for anyone interested in looking for activities for families. And then in terms of the training, we provided training to about 60 food bank staff and volunteers. And the purpose again was really to talk to them on how they could talk about literacy in their conversations with families when handing out books. And during the training, it was really nice. Food bank staff from across the country were able to reflect on their own personal literacy experiences, engage in discussions with one another, and then also hear directly from other food bank staff across the country who regularly provide books to their clients. And then a recorded version was available in both French and English for people who couldn't attend the live training. So here is just a map of the food banks that received support in 2021. And we were really happy that 97 food banks did receive books across the country, and we reached every province and territory, which was pretty awesome. And in terms of impact, as we said, 300,000 books were reached by families. 178 food banks in total were involved, and 200,000 children and families in need received books. And 93% of food banks reported that the books provided through Read On Canada helped families and children learn to read more this summer. And finally, as you can see from the photos here over the summer, our coalition worked to inspire families to read on across Canada. And we feel so thankful that we were provided the opportunity through various outlets to share this important message. So throughout the examples of the programs that I shared, we talked about bringing literacy resources and books to families through through healthcare visits and through food banks. And I just wanted everybody to give you the opportunity to reflect on ways that programs you currently work with or programs that you know of are weaving in some of these principles to support families and kids on their journeys of becoming readers. I know that there's a lot of great programs represented in the audience. So if there's anybody who'd like to share, we'd love to hear.
Hi, it's Janelle here. I just wanted to share that the leverage sort of in the part of number 2, so leveraging and training professionals, is that we're now supporting clinics in Calgary to utilize the training modules that have been created. And so far the feedback has been really, really positive. So it's just really exciting to look at such a well-designed resource and be able to share that with partners. And I would definitely recommend for anyone who's here, if you have a spare 45 minutes, the training modules are well worth doing.
Great, thanks, Janelle. Does anybody else have any examples of programs that they work with where families are reached in different avenues? So we've talked about healthcare and food banks. Does anyone else have any other thoughts?
Trying to look for the raise your hand function. Sorry, it's like going between Zoom and Teams. Like, which platform am I on? Pardon me. I'm Kristen with the Calgary Public Library, and so I know, like, I'm watching. I've been watching, and thank you so much for this information and the opportunity to participate and learn a little bit more about the program. I'm just thinking about different opportunities and the idea around bringing books and getting books into the hands, and that opportunity to maintain that connection with families, and something I don't know if this relates to the question that you're asking, but I think just something that we are constantly asking is this question of, who is deserving of the books? How do we, creating the parameters around, we only have so many spaces for families to receive the books. And if we're piloting a certain project, how do you justify who's worthy and who isn't? And I think that's, everyone obviously is worthy and deserving to receive books. And I think, so that's just something I kept thinking about just in our own situation and context right now, with the program. We're offering a program in partnership with Dolly Parton Imagination Library. And it's a US based organization. And so, learning about this Canadian opportunity is eye-opening for me, because to be honest, I hadn't, I need to do a little bit more digging and maybe seeing, what other models there are out there, because I think, to your point, there are so many different resources available, and to not have to recreate the wheel, and to be able to leverage the connections and the resources that are available. I know, we're in Calgary, and making connections with Calgary Reads is really important to us and other organizations serving families through literacy focused activities. And so I just want to say I appreciate the opportunity to come together and to be able to learn and find those other ways that we can share each other's message.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much, Kristen. That's wonderful. Okay, so I think my time is almost up here. I just wanted to do a quick recap of some resources that are available. We have the provider toolkit, and I'm going to send this to Natalie, and so Natalie can send this slide around just because the links are all there. There's a provider toolkit with the module and a bunch of other counseling guides and other resources for help for not just healthcare practitioners, but really anyone working with families ages 0 to 5. The book portal is available for individuals or organizations looking to purchase affordable books for their programs. The Early Words e-bulletin for anyone interested in getting, weekly updates and tidbits on early literacy and updates about the healthcare-based early literacy program. And then there's the Read On Canada activities for families and other professionals just looking for some joyful, fun activities to support language and literacy development for your kiddos. So I just wanted to thank you all for your time, and thank you all for the important work that you do with so many families across Canada. So there's our contact information. If you have any questions or comments, I'm happy to, I'd love to hear from you.
Thanks, Nina, so much for sharing 2 exciting programs that we've certainly been happy to be a part of. And I hope people will reach out to check out the website and look at all these other amazing resources that the Canadian Children's Literacy Foundation is sort of doing a fantastic job of pulling from all the hundreds of resources that are out there, selecting some of them to put out, and then being very open and willing to share everything around. And that's all part of how we might have a greater impact, is if we're sharing the same messages and some of the same material with families. And families don't really care if the program is a Calgary Reads program or the public library program or whomever. They just need to get the information to do the best jobs that they can to raise their children. And part of the 369 series is an attempt to be able to share the good work that's happening all over the place, and not all of it occurs in our own backyard. I hope that you'll join us next month for, we are big fans at Calgary Reads of the Little Free Library, and we think the Little Free Library is one of the most amazing 21st century inventions that could possibly influence the literacy landscape. And we're going to, sadly, Todd Bowles, who we did bring to Calgary probably about 6 years ago now, has passed away, and he is the founder of the Little Free Library movement. And the Little Free Library is now a charitable organization, And Greg is the new CEO of the Little Free Libraries movement, I would say. And he will be joining us next month to talk to us about the Little Free Libraries, but also they have a new initiative that is really focused on the diversity that we need to see more of within children's books. So please join us. And there's all the information that Natalie's put up on the screen. November 17th, 3 o'clock, 69 minutes. We'll be here. We hope you will be too. Thanks, everyone.
Stacey, did you want to mention that comfort collection really quick?
Oh, yeah. If any of you are working with Indigenous families, the beautiful book that we started off with is part of, as I mentioned quickly, the comfort collection. And we are continuing to be very generously supported by individuals and corporations who are purchasing the bundles. And then we are gifting them to different agencies so they can pass them along to their Indigenous families. And if you want to contact me, we may have more bundles available for you to be able to get access to. So send us a note and let us know. And they really are a beautiful set of fantastic books. And we, just as Nina talked about book access and kids owning books, and kids seeing themselves reflected in the pages of a book are really, really important. And we're here to help make that happen for people. So again, see you next month. Have a great evening. Take care.
Thank you.